Buster Olney thanks to Buffalo Wild Wings with Armen and Levack live at 5:15.
This is you just shush. Let me talk to my best friend in the whole world.
You're driving me nuts today.
Listen, Buster, you wrote one of the greatest pieces of literature I've ever seen in my life. Bryce Harper, future New York Yankee.
Oh, boy.
Try doing a show with this 4 hours
and I want
a
to
day.
make this 100% clear. What I wrote today was total speculation, and Bryce Harper is tied to the Washington Nationals for 3.5 more years. But I do think that it would be more of a shock if he didn't wind up with the Yankees after 2018 than if he did, because of all the circumstances that are in place. And you guys are well aware of some of them. First off, they have so many expiring contracts over the next 3.5 years. Alex Rodriguez, Mark Teixeira, his $22.5 million. Rodriguez with a $27.5 million. CC Sabathia, $25 million coming off the books. By the fall of 2018, Brian McCann's contract, $85 million, will be off the books. Chase Headley, Andrew Miller, on down the line. So they're going to have a lot of money to spend. And we know this, is that, they're probably going to be struggling, continue to struggle as they have this year to find, the face of the franchise, the guy to be their guy after Derek Jeter. And, Bryce Harper in 2018, he'll be 26 years old. He's not going to be 32. And I can't imagine a player better suited for their ballpark than the left-handed hitting Bryce Harper. He'd become sort of the modern version of Babe Ruth. And, I just think of all the circumstances around, and keep in mind that he's represented by Scott Boras, who always takes his clients into free agency, which means that it's unlikely that he'll settle on some team-friendly long-term deal the way other players have been before he reaches free agency. All of that coupled together makes me think that it's not a question of if he's going to wind up with the Yankees. It's a question of how much it's going to cost them.
And there's not a doubt in your mind that Hank and Hal will spend that big-time contract.
Not at that time, because, by that time they'll have I think they've done a nice job in the last 18 months to try to, work to rebuild their farm system, and I think they'll have plenty of money by that time freed up because of all these other deals that are coming off the books. And look, I think we've seen in repeated circumstance from Hal with CC Sabathia, with Masahiro Tanaka, he's not afraid of spending money. They've been boxed in somewhat in recent years because of the fact that they had all these other salary obligations. But now it feels like the credit card debt is going to get paid up by 2018.
So I'm going to go ahead and just order a Brian McCann jersey, so I already have my 34.
Wow.
Yeah. You're telling me, Buster, I mean, this is going to the next 4 years, 3.5 years is going to be like this.
Well, this is no joke, okay? Every week on our podcast, we do a uniform and logo trivia quiz with a guy named Todd Radum, who does a lot of uniforms and logos for teams. You've seen his work. I can't tell you exactly which team because that's not the way it's done in his business. But believe me, a whole bunch of things that you've looked at. Well, this morning I asked him about that, the marketability of Bryce on the podcast that we do, and within an hour he sent me a mock-up of Bryce Harper's number 77 jersey, what it would look like in pinstripes.
Oh, because he loves Mickey. This is perfect. You have made my day. I love it.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Buster Olney thanks to Buffalo Wild Wings every Thursday at 5:15. Best of Buster at 6:30. All right, Buster. Andrew Miller sent down to the DL. How devastating is this for the Yankees?
Well, it depends on if there's more to it than what we know. And I will say this, that generally speaking, the Yankees are very conservative in their handling of injuries, and generally speaking, on the truth meter, they actually fare pretty high. And what we heard yesterday was that it's not a ligament issue, it's a flexor mass issue, which means that it's a muscle thing. And if what the Yankees is saying is 100% reflective of where he's at right now, then there is a chance that he would come back and by the end of the year, within maybe a month or so or 6 weeks, he would be okay. You do wonder about, Miller going forward. I know from talking with Oriole people last year that they had some questions about him and whether or not he would hold up physically. As he was headed into free agency last year, Bob Nightingale of USA Today reported this. The Orioles wanted to give him an MRI at the end of last season because they were thinking about re-signing him, and Andrew Miller's response was, no, thank you, we're not going to do that. So, people kind of wondered how he was going to hold up after a heavy workload in recent seasons, and I guess now it's left for the Yankees to wonder.
Are the Yankees in a unique situation to handle this because of Dellin Betances?
Yes and no. Yes, they've got a closer, but I wrote a column last weekend. I mean, his workload in the last couple of years has been staggering. No American League pitcher has thrown more pitches than he has. I've actually been surprised at how heavily he's been used. As of last Friday, and I haven't looked at the numbers this morning, he was on a pace for 80 games and 90 innings, okay? That is breakdown type stuff. That's like whipping the nag until the nag is stuff coming out of its mouth. And so, he in theory, his talent certainly translates in terms of being a closer, but not only do they have to, now replace get another 8th and 9th inning guy to replace what they can't get out of Betances in the 8th inning, but they have to wonder about Betances himself and, whether or not he's going to be okay physically and will hold up. And you do wonder if going forward this will accelerate their ongoing search for right-handed relief.
Buster Olney, thanks to Buffalo Wild Wings with Armen Levack, and that was going to be my next question. They traded Carpenter to add a second baseman earlier today. Now with Miller out, that you do feel like perhaps the trade market for the Yankees, they could be back in it.
Oh, yeah. Well, they already are back in it. I mean, the other day they signed Sergio Santos, and he was kind of a flyer. The veteran relievers had a lot of arm problems. They're sticking him in AAA. They're going to see what they see, but they'll look for other options as well. And I'm just going to throw this out. And again, it's total speculation based on the fact that this guy's available right now. Jonathan Broxton of the Milwaukee Brewers. Would the Yankees look at him? He has a $9 million option for next year. He's making $9 million for this year. Would they call the Brewers and say, "Look, we'll take him off your hands. We'll save you some salary, and you get a dominant guy there"? I just knowing how Brian Cashman thinks, I think he's going to add multiple options, volume, because let's face it, coming into the year, this was supposed to be the strength of the Yankees, and now we don't know exactly what they're going to get out of Miller going forward. I do think that the Yankees bought themselves some credibility with what they told us about Tanaka, which is, if you guys remember, there were a lot of columnists at that time saying it's time for Tanaka when he had the wrist problem 6 weeks ago, just go and have Tommy John surgery, and the Yankees kept telling us, no, we think he's okay. We just think he needs to, heal up this issue with his wrist, and he's come back and he's been fantastic. And maybe that's what happens with Andrew Miller.
Now, is it time to stop talking about Tommy John surgery for Tanaka?
I didn't understand the conversation for a lot of it, especially this year, because, what we heard from the Yankees was he's spoken with 3 doctors, and this is dating back to last year. They're all saying that they don't recommend Tommy John surgery, and they're all also saying that, he can be functional going forward. Yes, it's an open question if he at some point he's going to go from a partial tear to a complete tear in his elbow, but he's going to be okay. And yet we read so many places, columnists saying, just get it done, just get it done. And then Stefania Bell, who is our injury expert at ESPN, told us that, when you have a Tommy John surgery, it's not a guarantee. It's not a sure thing that you can come back from that. And even in the face of that, especially after that wrist thing that he had last month, you read all over the place, just get Tommy John, just get Tommy John. Well, the last 2 starts, Tanaka's come back. He's been absolutely dominant with his stuff. He looks better than ever. And why would you bypass that opportunity to pitch now? Because you don't know when that time bomb in his elbow is going to go off, whether it's in 2 weeks or 2 months or 10 years. We just don't know.
Buster Olney, thanks to Buffalo Wild Wings. Buster, you were at Citi Field last night when Matt Harvey got roughed up in his start. Anything out of that start last night that makes you feel like it could linger and lead to some more negativity?
Well, the question is going to be, can he get his command back? And you talk to a lot of pitchers who come back from a shoulder issue or an elbow issue, and they'll tell you the last thing to regain is the command. He's had velocity since the beginning of spring training, but I think you guys would agree with me, even early in the year when he had some dominant performances, his command wasn't, as on as it has been in the past. And that's the way it was last night. And we got a great stat from ESPN Stats and Information from that start last night that in counts, in situations in which you reach an 0-2 count or a 1-2 count or 0-1 or 2-2, which are pitchers' counts, after that, 48% of his pitches were in the vertical middle of the strike zone. In other words, belt high. And that's why last night you saw, guys like Joe Panik hit an 0-2 fastball for a home run, or 0-2 changeup, because he was just in the middle of the plate so much. And that's something that's got to get better. And I got to believe, if he follows the same trajectory that a lot of pitchers do after having that type of operation, that it will get better.
Buster, same series, rookie Chris Heston comes out, throws a no-hitter. That's 4 years in a row that a Giants pitcher has thrown a no-hitter. What do you attribute this to?
I do think there's something to the Giants' culture. I remember during the postseason last year asking Brandon Crawford, are all you guys the same? Because all these guys are really understated. Brandon Crawford's is a lot like Buster Posey, who's a lot like Madison Bumgarner, who's a lot like Bruce Bochy, on down the line. And no one ever panics. No one ever gets too concerned. And yesterday, Dave Righetti was talking about how he knew that when Heston came in he went out for the 8th and 9th inning, he was still pitching. He wasn't freaking out and throwing nothing but fastballs and altering his game plan. And that's when he thought he had a real chance to finish the no-hitter. And it was interesting talking with some of the other Giants. They felt like, yes, Heston was a low-round draft pick, and he was a guy who was added to the rotation because of other injuries. He was a backup, but he's always had a great sinker, and it's been a question of whether or not he can command it. And the other Giants say this year they've seen an improvement in that.
Buster, only thanks to Buffalo Wild Wings, where Levack and I will be tomorrow doing the show live, giving away Yankee tickets at 6:20. All right, Buster, Torrey Hunter ejected last night because he was arguing balls and strikes. Yet another testament to the campaign that you and I are leading on bringing machines to baseball. That's how it's going, right?
Woo! Apples and oranges. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to veer away from you.
God,
man. It feels like I'm just on a Levack-type day today.
I love it,
man.
And I'll tell you why. I thought that what happened last night is that you had a veteran player who is literally in the last 2 innings of a series that's going to end with a sweep against his team, and he knew that, and he just decided in that moment, you know what, I'm going to go a little nuts. I'm going to fire up the team, and he is the emotional leader of that team. But, he confronts the umpire, winds up throwing stuff, and it certainly felt in the middle of that tirade that Torrey had, and Torrey's a smart guy. Didn't it kind of feel like that he was putting on a show like the managers do, where it's like, you know what, I threw down my bat, I'm just going to let my shin guard go, and I'm going to let my batting gloves go, and I'm going to rip off my jersey, and by the end of it, the fans were totally into it, and it changed the conversation by the end of that away from how bad the Twins played this week against Kansas City and to whether or not Torrey Hunter lost his mind, and I think he's totally comfortable with that.
We used to call it a yard sale. One of my Babe Ruth coaches would do that. He'd just throw everything out like, oh, yard sale from Coach again.
That's awesome. Well, that's the way it felt with Torrey, and I know Torrey well enough to know how he regards teammates and how he leads. That's a distinct possibility.
All right, Buster. The Royals right now, 7 guys are going to be starting for the American League team in the All-Star game if it goes down the way it is. Is that going to be the final straw? Is that when somebody says, all right, we have to change the way we're doing this?
I hope not. I think that if you ask fans to vote and then you get results like this, you can't be like the presidential candidate who says, get out the vote, and then when it goes against them, they say, throw out Texas or throw out California. That's the way it goes. You give credit to the people who live in Missouri, Cardinals fans, Royals fans. I think those 2 teams, as of today, they account for 11 of the 17 starters. So maybe that state is just more invested in it than others. Look, is it good for baseball if the Royals wind up with either 7 or 8 starters, which seems possible? No, it probably isn't. But on the other hand, I don't know how you can ask the fans to put in the voting and then somehow get upset about the way that it turns out. I think you hope that other markets respond.
You make perfect sense, just like the story about future Yankee Bryce Harper. I mean, that's everything like usual. Money.
Well, and I always, when we have situations like this, you sometimes hear from people who say, well, give it to the players. Well, we know from the players' vote in recent years, sometimes their vote doesn't make sense, and we know from the Hall of Fame voting what idiots us writers can be.
All right, there he is, Buster Olney, brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings.
You, sir, are no idiot. Future Yankee Bryce Harper agrees.
Yeah, get ready.
Oh, goodness.
3.5 more years of that. At Buster_ESPN on Twitter.
You guys ought to put a clock in your studio now, right?
I like it. Yeah, countdown
clock until Bryce makes his Yankee debut.
All right, Buster, time's up today. We'll talk to you again next week. We're going to have a clock in here by tomorrow.
Yes, we are.
I know we are. And watch Levack. He's going to sell it and get it sponsored, and it's going to be like a huge bit now.
Oh, it's not a bit.
If it doesn't happen, I'm leaving the country.
Oh, my. This is the best thing. He's so sure. I love this.
Become an insider today at ESPN.com to read Buster's fine work. Buster, good talking to you, man. We'll do it again next week.
See you guys.
Levack, you, me, tomorrow, Buffalo Wild Wings, and we're giving away Yankees tickets around 6:15, 6:20.
Yeah, you can win tickets to see present Yankees play the Tigers this season. Don't forget, 3.5 years until you can see future Yankee Bryce Harper.
And I got to be honest, I'm so not ready to hear that all the time. I got to be honest, too, that I've been to Buffalo Wild Wings all over the country, and the one that is run the way that it's run here in Clifton Park is one of the best, if not the best. John, the general manager, and his crew are fantastic, so we highly recommend. Come spend the afternoon with us tomorrow. Even if it's just half an hour, a little bit, hang out with us at Buffalo Wild Wings in Clifton Park Center.
You have never given better advice than you just gave right there. It's the God's honest truth. I have friends. I have 2 friends that swore to me they wouldn't go because they hated the service. Loved the food, hated the service.
Yeah.
I was like, have you been here? No, I've never been here. Brought them. Now they call me, hey, you want to go?
We recently had a buddy come in from out of town, and we said, hey, we're going to go to Buffalo Wild Wings. And he goes, I have one of those here. And I was like, no, just come on. Every time now he comes back to town, he goes, guys, let's go back to Buffalo Wild Wings.
Right, because you're treated right.
Exactly.
It's good times.
So we'll see you tomorrow night at Buffalo Wild Wings at Clifton Park. Armen and Levack will be live from 3 to about 6:30 when we're giving away those Yankees tickets.